Hi everyone, good afternoon and welcome to our Ask Me Anything session. I've got Sam here with me, and this morning I sent out an email to everyone on the blog's email list just saying that we were going to do a kind of Q&A session today and to send in any questions that you had for us. We've had about 20 or 30 questions I think back, so what we're going to do is try and get through as many as possible. We'll both be answering them. And then hopefully you'll get your questions answered and learn a little bit more about everything we've been doing over the last 6 months. So then, let's crack on with the first question. The first one is from Stuart Herriot, and he asks Sam, when will your first tournament be and how many tournaments are you planning on doing?
That's a good question. It's one of these things that have been changing almost every time we speak about it. I think originally we wanted to start around August time.
Yeah, the Liverpool Grand Prix in August was going to be our first one, but that's definitely not going to happen now.
But I think now that basically the way we want to do it is as soon as I start playing ranking tournaments, I want to get a good initial ranking, which means I want to be pretty good when I start.
I want to hold it off for as long as possible.
Whereas if I started in August, that's still only a little over half of the way through. So that's a lot of improvement between then and the end. So I think hopefully we'll start doing some in November. We might do some, we might hold our own tournament maybe before that, just something like non-ranking. Invite various players to come play against, and then I think we might do our final one will be at the beginning of January.
Yeah, there's a tournament at Sippenham early January. It's like a teams tournament, so I think we'll probably do that one together as kind of like the last tournament. Right, second question. Mike Ridderford asks, what is the fitness regime Sam is doing away from the table, and what kind of exercises is he doing? Sam, you know probably more.
You know what I'm doing away from the table. So again, this has changed a bit. So most recently, I have been doing about half an hour a day. And what I generally do is I generally start off with about 3 minutes of skipping. I start off with some stretching, then about 3 minutes of skipping, and then depending on the day of the week, I'll either do some sort of agility ladder work or some shadow play. Generally, I get into habits on the table which I find quite annoying. For instance, I'll be stepping in with the wrong foot or just something, and then I'll try and just hammer out what that problem is down at the gym. And so I'll do that. With the agility ladder stuff, I'll just keep trying going faster and faster and faster, and that's really a sort of cardio workout, but with very fast feet.
Yeah, you've got a lot better at the agility ladder as well.
Yeah, it was quite embarrassing to start with because everyone would give me weird stares in the gym, but now I feel like they're giving me impressed stares instead.
And are you doing cardio, running or biking or something?
I'm not doing any of that. I'm not doing any of that. Again, if anyone's got any good suggestions of what to do in the gym, then let us know.
Yeah, we'll probably film some of that later on and put kind of something together that's a bit more easy to consume.
Yeah, one of the problems I think we've had a bit is that I'd do that in the morning, half an hour in the gym, and then I'd come straight back here and do the sort of skill-based training on the table, and I'd just be knackered. So we've got to really find a better way to, like maybe the other way around, maybe starting earlier, just some way to get the most out of this technique-based stuff while at the table, and not just be shattered.
Okay, next question was kind of asked in two different ways by two people. Barry Ross and Steve Brunskill asked, what's been the most difficult part of the learning process so far, and what do you feel has been the most challenging aspect of the experiment so far? So pretty much the same thing. I'll let Sam have a stab at that first.
Yeah, like everything. No, I think developing feeling for the ball I found a real struggle. Just there's so many variables in table tennis, and a lot of them you don't really come across in life really, apart from table tennis. Like no other racket sports you get such extremes of like top spin or side spin or backspin, and a lot of it I've had to sort of like change the way I think about stuff, and my body will be saying, no, you can't possibly put your bat at that angle, it's never going to go over, but it does. And so adapting to that I found really difficult, and still we'll be doing some quite during just general training it'll be okay, and I'll be understanding what's going on, I'll be reading the spins okay, Then I'll play someone else who spins it either a bit more or slightly differently to how Ben does. It just all goes out the window. I sort of had this deer in the headlights moment where my body just doesn't know what to do with that sort of level of spin, and I'm still finding that really difficult now.
Yeah, probably the most difficult thing to learn and to teach is, so I can teach Sam how to hit a certain shot, but then he's got to tweak it in kind of like so many tiny different ways that now I know that it's slightly heavier, so I've got to go slightly more over the top, or it's slightly softer, I've got to hit it a bit more. I want to play the same shot but with a bit more control, or it's a float ball, how do you play the same technique when it's no spin? Yeah. It's kind of like doing all the little adjustments, and it just, I guess you need to try and be variable in the balls that I'm giving Sam, and then it just takes an awful lot of time to actually see balls. I think even now sometimes it's hard for him to work out whether it's heavy backspin or medium backspin or not very much backspin, and it takes a while to get the hang of that. And then
I think the way I'm kind of doing it at the moment is I'm looking at how they're hitting the ball and trying to work out the backspin there. But then I'll play someone who's got dead rubbers and it's float, it's not backspin. In the book Bounce, I read that when you get good at table tennis, you can actually see the ball spinning, and I can't do that yet. So hopefully that'll be soon. I'll be able to just tell from the way the ball's moving through the air like what's going on.
Yeah, cool. Rob Wotton asks, quite a long one, but this is quite good. What's been the hardest challenge in transferring repetitive drill skills, learning practice into match situations? Sam's clearly developing technique at a fast rate, but how does he feel this is coming out in his matches? How are you combating the player who may have less developed technique, but many years of tactical savviness and experience under their belt? I come across this type of player a lot. I guess this is kind of, a lot of the players that Sam's been playing recently at Ish kind of fit under this banner. So how have you kind of managed to combat what they're doing, and what's your kind of attitude towards playing them, I guess?
Yeah, so to answer the first part, how do I change it, move from this repetitive motion to games? And I think the answer is just playing a lot of games, which we've been trying to do a lot more recently, because originally I found it difficult moving from getting a good backhand to positioning myself and using that backhand in a game situation. I'm getting a bit better at that now, but yeah, like that is still something I really struggle with, is players who are quite savvy, they've got a lot of good feeling, and they've got really unorthodox techniques. How am I combating them? Well, what we're doing at the moment is at Ish, we're taking our video camera, I'm playing a few people, we're videoing it, and then we're just analysing what I was doing wrong, like where I'm going wrong, and we're spending the week, we might take a day or two out of the week to sort of focus on combating that, whatever that person's doing.
I think, so if you play a lot of unorthodox players, some people will just come away from the game and say, oh, I lost because they were really weird or something. But chances are there's probably only one or two things that they're doing that are actually causing you trouble. And if you can just isolate it, so it might be very weird what they're doing, but you need to break down exactly what it is. So somehow they're giving you a funny shot that's a float ball into a different place.
Yeah.
And then get someone to practice that weird shot. So you really struggled with the guy that was taking the ball really late and doing really high loopy spinny shots.
Yeah. So on my first day at Ish, I played this guy who, I think I won 2 out of the 5 games we played, so it was quite even. But he had this one shot where he'd take it very late on his forehand, do a massive shoot up the backside, and straight to my backhand, and I just couldn't get over the top enough to actually get it on the table. I just missed every shot. So then we spent an hour and a half or something, Ben just doing that shot to me again and again and again, until now, hopefully, if I play him again, I'll be able to combat that and come away victorious.
Yeah, trying to see past the weirdness and actually break down what they're doing that's working. Okay, Jimmy Scope asks, now that you're 6 months in, have you adapted your strategy to incorporate Sam's natural instincts and talent? I.e., is it plan to Sam or Sam to plan? So I think what he's getting at there is, am I still kind of dictating what we're going to do to you, or how much are you determining the plan of what we're doing and working it around what you're good at?
Yeah, another good question, and one I don't think we've really thought about. So I wouldn't be able to. I don't think we've ever really analysed properly what my sort of strengths and weaknesses are, because they've been changing a lot. To begin with, my strength was very much sort of my forehand, whereas now maybe not so much. In terms of like point one, I actually win more on my backhand because my forehand's more powerful but less consistent. What we do a lot is we do talk about what we're going to practice, and I think one advantage of actually being an adult and it being a sort of one-on-one collaboration means that I kind of know what I'm struggling with, so I can say to Ben, so today for instance I asked, can we just play a game where you're playing passively and just pushing everything to my backhand, because I was really struggling. What I kept doing is my sort of trademark is I'll do a big backhand and then I'll turn and do a big forehand.
Like a pivot forehand from the backhand side.
Yeah, but that meant if I had another backhand, I'd just look like an idiot. It'd just go past me and I'd have my back to it. So really, I was just trying to break that habit, and that's something I knew I was struggling with, and so we just spent the day doing that.
Yeah, like the first few months, it was very much, I know how to teach a forehand. Sam doesn't have a clue how to play a forehand, so I was telling him exactly what to do. As it's been going on, often I'll just turn up and ask Sam what he wants to work on today, and then we'll do that. Or even Sam's come up with training ideas that we haven't thought of, like playing a point, talking about it.
Yeah.
Then playing another point, talking like that was your idea, not mine. So, and I guess Sam brings a perspective that's come not just from the table tennis world, where you get ingrained in what everyone else does. So, I think it's helped a lot. Yeah,
I've got a bunch of ideas I'd like to try out at some point, but we'll see. We'll see if they ever. Might put a towel under the table never really panned out.
We could maybe try that later.
We did that once and it was a bit of a disaster.
Okay, next question is from, and I might get this name wrong, Ioan. That might be Ewan. No, I think it's Ioan. Ioan Dragomir, and he's asking, how much time did Sam play with his first bat, and what was the setup? And how often have you changed rubbers since, and what rubbers are you currently using?
So my first bat was a Paleo Master bat, which is a sort of like mid-range beginner's bat.
Pre-made bat, so it kind of all comes together.
Yeah. And then from there, I moved. What we did is we took the rubbers off that. Which,
when did we switch?
It was quite
March,
in,
maybe.
It? Yeah, it was about March.
I think it was about March. So
it was before we went back to Middlesbrough for the second time.
That might have been April. So I've probably got at least 3 months with the pre-made bat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we took the rubbers off that, which were sort of CJ8000 Paleo rubbers, and put on some of Ben's old, slightly dead Tenergy rubbers.
Yeah.
So still using the slightly slower bat, blade, but better rubbers. And then
start of May, I think.
May, we changed again, where we took the rubbers off that and we put them on one of Ben's old.
No, actually, we changed rubbers again, or we changed to different
dead Tenergy rubbers.
So now Sam's using a new lot of dead Tenergy on a Stiga offensive blade that I had from years ago.
Yeah.
And literally this week or next week, you'll buy your first proper bat. So get something from T-Sport.
Yeah, that would be exciting.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to sponsor me and buy me a bat, then I'll be very grateful.
And he also asks, after 6 months of training, are you still positive about your chances of success? And have you tried your skills against any other players in competitions yet? We haven't done any competitions yet, but how positive are you about your chance of success?
So my positivity is very much in line with the expressions I see on Ben's face when we're doing sessions. So that's one of the things. I don't really know what the target we're getting to is. I don't know how far we still got to go.
Yeah.
Because I haven't actually played anyone in around that area, around the top 250.
Well, you have at Swerve, but
a
while ago. So
that was like
a long time ago.
Yeah. So I don't know. So I beat Ben right-handed a couple of weeks ago. So it's getting better. Although he beat me like 11-0 today, so still quite a bit of the way to go.
We had a very good session this morning where Sam was playing at more of a kind of top 250 intensity, even if he was missing shots.
Yeah,
that made me feel a lot more positive.
I feel pretty positive that I could look like a top 250 player. Again, what I was speaking about before with the weird spins and stuff. So I reckon definitely by the end of the year I'll be giving Ben a very good game. Now, coming across someone who's at Ben's level but has a different technique, I'm not sure how that's going to be.
Yeah, that's probably true. And I think quite a few people have kind of mentioned that to us as well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's not much you can do. It's going to be very difficult for Sam to beat a top 250 player that's got anti-spin on one side and short gimbals on the other.
Yeah.
It's just, the chance of that happening without him training against that for a year is going to be tough. But yeah, I think I'm very positive anyway.
I think regardless, I'm going to be very good by the end, and I'll be able to beat I'll be able to beat all my friends anyway, which is a victory in itself.
Okay, Henry Arthur asks, so far we've seen Sam and yourself work on the technical aspects of table tennis, and Sam's been working on his strength and conditioning. However, we haven't seen much time spent on tactics and psychology. Now that Sam's moving into the competitive part of the year, can we expect to see a greater focus on tactics and sports psychology? And if so, how do you intend to bring it into your sessions? Can we expect to see you giving Sam homework with lots of books to read? Well, I guess only I can answer that.
Can you?
I am just about to give Sam a copy of Table Tennis Tactics for Thinkers by Larry Hodges, which is a really good book on tactics. So I'll have him reading that over the next few weeks. And then when it comes to kind of tactics and stuff, I guess it's becoming time to start doing more work on that. Sam still... See, it's my opinion that if you can't serve, have someone push at you and do an open up and get the majority of them on, there's not loads of point worrying too much about tactics. So I guess over the next couple of months that will improve a lot, and then we can really start working on tactics and things like that.
Yeah. I've started doing a Skype session with Mark every now and again to talk about the psychology and target setting and stuff like that. There's a few things I want to really work on. So one of them is I get quite angry if not really angry, but I get tense and frustrated if I keep doing a shot badly, and it means that I can deteriorate quite quickly. So I need to work on how to just get myself back in a good mindset.
We've had a few training sessions that are just can spiral out of control. So.
Just getting more and more grouchy. And there's other things like training in the morning, because if I go to a tournament, I'm going to have to be playing games quite early in the morning, and they're always my worst sessions. So I've got to how do I get my mind frame into the best stage? And then also in terms of tactics, we've spoken a bit about having a playbook, having set pieces I'm just really good at. So I think that's definitely on the to-do list, stuff to do. Well, I'll have 6 or 7 little set pieces that I'll do. So I'll do a certain serve and I know it's either going to 1 or 2 places, and then I know what move I'm doing next. So just getting rid of all the kind of decision making on the spot and having these very short set pieces that I've practiced loads of times and just know exactly what to do without having to think about it.
Yeah. Cool. Stephen Foster asks, what is Sam planning to do with regards to table tennis after the challenge is done? What are you planning to do after the challenge is done?
I don't know. I suggested to Ben that our next challenge could be going to a stand-up comedy night every night and making a fool of ourselves, but he turned that down.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that.
So I might need to continue playing table tennis. We'll see. I think at the moment I'm missing my free time. But it's one of these things, you get really passionate about the stuff you're good at, and if I'm so I get quite disheartened if I'm playing a game and I lose someone I think I should be beating. By the end of this year, the plan is I'm going to be pretty good, and the more I play, the more I enjoy it, and I get really fed up. But then I went away for a wedding last weekend, and by the time I got back, I was itching to play some more table tennis, and so I don't know. We'll see.
Well, you won't be practicing every day, will you?
I won't be practicing every day.
But it'd be good if you kept it up.
I might be, if I've got some housemates who don't mind being demolished every day, I might do that.
Okay, next question. Dan Yuan Viet, probably pronounced that wrong, says, Ben, are you still playing and competing in tournaments during the Expert in the Year Challenge? I'm not playing or competing at all. there's just not the time to practice coaching Sam so much, and I can't stand playing when I'm not practicing. It just makes me feel terrible. So I'm not competing. I'm not actually sure how much I'll be playing in the future either. I'm really into the coaching at the moment, so I think it's unlikely that I'm going to get into practicing regularly again. I'll probably just focus on the coaching. Next question is from Ben Swift, and Ben says, I think Sam was a casual player before you started, so he must have had some bad habits. Which of these has been the most resistant to change, and how did you go about replacing the old muscle memory with the new? Do you think the bad form will return under match pressure?
So I think if you ask Ben, then he'll say everything I did before was a bad habit. Basically, what we did is we, instead of trying to improve what I was doing before, we pretty much threw it all out the window. And the first probably 2 months was just repetitive forehand. Each time I was making a slight technical error, Ben called me up on it. Do the old habits come out in matches? I don't think so. I think my new bad habits come out in matches.
Yeah, there were a few old bad habits, but they seem to have gone. So if you look
I can't really remember.
if you look at earlier videos, so there was one which was actually I've got it back here. So in practice, Sam was getting quite good at his backhand like this.
Yeah.
But then every time we would play a match, he would be fading backhand and they'd be curving off the end. And it's because he used to play like that.
Yeah.
So he just got used to going that way. And for months, he had a wrist going over here with the back two upright.
Yeah, that still comes out every now and again.
So that was probably like the main one. More generally, I guess, if you play for a year standing upright, like with your hand on your hip like this, it's difficult to then really get the hang of playing down there. So that's potentially still a bit of a bad habit.
Yeah, I don't crouch down enough as I probably should do.
It's another one of those things where your body kind of lies to you and you think that you're...
Yeah, I think my eye level is at table height. Also, I think... but I think... you know, you pay by... You've got this sort of... You play by watching you learn by watching other people play. And so I think... just because, you know, the way we practice, when we're knocking out, we stand up quite straight, and when we're playing matches, you're not really trying. You're brushing your teeth at the same time or something, and so I end up then doing the similar sort of thing. I'm quite like I'm just not. I don't have that energy that I should do, and part of that energy is being low and moving quick. So that is a bad habit, but I'm not sure.
I guess we'll see when it comes. There's definitely a different pressure when you're playing in a tournament than when you're playing kind of like someone at a club or something. So I guess only time will tell.
Yeah.
Right, Luke, who I don't have a surname for, has a huge amount of questions, so we're going to try and whiz through them very quickly. He said, Sam seems to be the perfect candidate for the challenge. Did you have him in mind when you came up with the idea? Were there any other candidates? And what were your motivations for selecting Sam? So I'll answer that briefly. I'd actually thought of this kind of like 2 or 3 years ago, just something that I kind of wanted to do and assumed that I'd never do. It was Katie, my wife, that said that maybe you could do it with Sam because he's got into table tennis. And yeah, the fact that he's the perfect candidate, which he is, with free time during the day, the table in his flat, he bought himself a robot before we started. That's just, I don't know, good fortune.
Yeah.
Because that's just all come together at the right time.
It's quite unlikely, isn't it?
Yeah. And then motives for selecting Sam. Sam's a friend that I've known for years. So a few people asked if Sam was like really good at tennis or something else. That was why I picked him. That's not the case. If I was being completely honest, I would say Sam is very slightly below the kind of average talent level of people that you see.
All right.
Very slightly. So he's not really untalented. He's not really talented. I mean, he's somewhere around like the average. There are people that can't hit a ball at all. There are people that pick it up unbelievably quickly. Sam's quite average, I think, which is perfect for the challenge.
Oh, what rude.
He also asked, do you plan on documenting Sam's match play as rigorously as you have done with his training? Once we start doing tournaments, we will be very rigorous with his documenting of the match play. So I'll make sure we put up the matches onto YouTube. We'll be filming all of them. We'll do a little talk over it. We'll let you know kind of where the players ranked and all that kind of stuff, so you know what's going on.
Yeah, I'll probably have to do a diary and for a match analysis.
Have you got any support from the table tennis organisations and governing bodies? Not massively. The ETTA wrote a little kind of feature article on us to help kind of like spread the word, which was great. Other than that, I haven't reached out to that many people. We've just kind of been getting on with it. This is an interesting question, still from Luke. How has Sam's perspective of the sport changed, and has the hard training diminished his love of the sport?
So my perspective of the sport has changed a lot. I think I'm starting to get this sort of this table tennis chip in your shoulder that every table tennis player has. That they just nobody appreciates how difficult table tennis is. It was it's just table tennis, it's a hobby, but it's unbelievably difficult and complicated. There's so many variations, and it's really annoying because everyone's like, you're playing ping pong, but
You can very much, there's like a difference between like table tennis players and non-table tennis players. You feel like only other table tennis players understand, and you've now transitioned from the non-table tennis player who says, you've been playing table tennis your whole life, it's not that hard to like, now you...
you're a professional ping pong player, which was how everyone introduces Ben. No, it's annoying, because I tell people, I'm going to be in the top, I want to be in the top 1% of table tennis players, and I'm like, okay, that's nice. If I said, I want to be in the top 1% of footballers, I'd get a very different reaction because people don't really take table tennis as seriously as they should do.
He also asked, how has Ben's coaching style and method changed as a result of the challenge? I think this has changed, well, I'll give you one way because it's changed in so many ways. I used to coach technique first, so I'm always really big on technique, fundamental technique. Once you've got the technique, then start doing movement drills. So once you've learnt your drives, you would do backhand drive, forehand drive, backhand drive, forehand drive, those kind of drills. Now I would say I would definitely coach footwork away from the table first, so coaching side steps, different footwork patterns, getting them moving properly. Then I would coach technique, and only then would I put the two together.
Yeah.
Which we didn't actually do.
We didn't do.
But having done the challenge, that is what I would do in the future.
Yeah, we were actually speaking about this yesterday, and we'd probably do it quite differently, and we'd probably get to this level quite a bit quicker. So there's stuff you've never really done before, which is like feeding yourself and to practice shots.
That's another one
which it's amazing just how quickly people seem to pick up just a much better looking shot doing that.
And I've been using that loads at school this year with the year 7s that I've never done before.
Yeah.
And you can almost leave them on their own for 20 minutes, because if they're doing the technique wrong for a backhand drive, the ball just doesn't really go over the net. So you come back 20 minutes later and they've kind of worked it out on their own.
Yeah. Yeah, so they kind of teach themselves, which is a better way of learning.
Yeah. Last question from Luke was, what advice would you give to someone who's trying to improve their table tennis but doesn't have unlimited access to coaching?
Well, we just spoke about it. So this is something we always talk about, is for an adult, table tennis is not an easy sport to get into, to get quite good at. So if you're on your own and you want to practice, just feeding yourself is quite good. And again, I'd say probably the best way is to go along to some of these clubs a few times a week to get some practice against other people, and then I think the best thing is just to get a group of you. Like if you've got a few mates who are all quite serious about getting good table tennis, and then you work together, you'll get better so much quicker. And also that competitiveness of you always trying to beat each other and outdo each other, coupled with going to these clubs and playing against players who are already very good, I think is probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, most people aren't going to have someone that's able to coach them every day for a year. Yeah, I'd say it's almost definitely worth once a week having an hour of coaching with somebody.
Okay.
Like it could well cost you 20 quid, 30 quid for the hour, which some people may not be able to afford, but I mean, it's really, really worth it. You haven't got to have it every day.
Yeah.
You would probably be having not as good, but not massively worse results if we did once a week, and then you played with a competent player every other day, and then once a week I came and we decided what you're going to do for the rest of the week. So
Yeah.
I don't think you need the coach every day. You need to have some coach that's helping you plan and spotting errors. But
because they're definitely diminishing returns from coaching. It's one of these curves like that where
at the start you definitely need some coaching.
Yeah.
Just to get the
where
basics.
no coaching is rubbish.
Yeah.
And then loads of coaching isn't so much better than a bit of coaching.
Yeah. Okay, those were all of Luke's questions. We'll move on to Max Thema, and he said, "What have you found is the best way to practice movement?"
Oh, movement is something which I need to get a lot better at. I find in the gym, away from the table.
In front of a mirror.
In front of a mirror.
Ideally, yeah.
Yeah, I find that when there's a ball, it's hard to focus on your feet while trying to do something else at the same time. Watch a lot of YouTube videos of people doing the correct movement because it's quite a strange movement. I think it's difficult to pick up just on your own.
Yeah.
Because you don't really see it. You never really move it as like a table tennis player does in the real world.
No.
So watch some videos, practice away from the table, and then I think probably the drill we did, which I think was best for my movement, was where I'd be standing still or just shifting my weight side to side, and Ben would play the ball anywhere with whatever spin he wanted, and I'd have to move, pounce on the ball, do the shot, and then recover,
and
then
wait and pause,
and then there'd be a pause.
Yeah.
So time for me to think about what's just happened, get ready, and then move. I think irregular is definitely better than regular for stuff like movement, because as soon as if you get really good at regular movement and then you throw in irregular, it's all, I've found in my experience anyway, it just all sort of falls apart and it's quite hard to translate.
Max's next question is, what's a fun way to practice alone?
Yeah. I don't know, is there a fun way to practice on your own?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
So
there are many ways to practice alone.
there's many ways to practice on your own.
I didn't
Most
realise.
are pretty boring.
Yeah, they're not much fun though. But I mean, it's not. I guess it depends. Are you in table tennis to have fun, or are you in table tennis to try and get better, isn't it?
So I downloaded this table tennis game on my phone. I can't remember what it's called.
Table tennis touch.
It might be.
Is it the new one?
It's a new one, yeah.
Yeah, table tennis.
Table tennis touch. And there's loads of. It's obviously online, so it doesn't really help you play table tennis. But they've got quite a few good ideas of training, and so there's stuff like setting up obstacles on the table or like bowling pins, and so for the service, like one of the things they do is they've got like a little house and some men blocking it, and you've got to serve it so that it curves into the house around the people. And I think just playing a few games like that is probably about as interesting as it's going to get.
There's loads you can do, so it might not be that fun, but I mean, so service practice probably isn't that much fun, but service practice is so important, and if you've got a table and some balls, you can do that on your own. You can do all of the shadow play stuff, which is a lot more effective than I used to think it was. When we used to do shadow play, I assumed it was just because, I don't know, I thought it would be kind of like something a bit different, but it's definitely very, very useful shadow play. You can do your footwork stuff, you can do all the feeding yourself drills where you're bouncing a ball, like that works for any shots, touches, flicks, counters. You can even do a ball where you kind of drop it and let it drop off and play like a bit of an open up.
Yeah.
There's stuff you can do, definitely.
You can always get yourself a robot as well, which is very good for doing stuff like open up.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And it can be really satisfying if you're sort of consistently doing really good shots.
Next question is from Brian Issenden, and he is asking, knowing what you know now, would you have changed your coaching of Sam in any way?
Haven't we had this question?
Yeah, I guess we have kind of answered that. I mean, there are definitely some things that I would change, and we were talking about this the other day. I don't think that at the end of this I'll, have the perfect way of coaching. I was saying maybe if I did this 10 years in a row,
by the end of it,
by the 10th year, like I would have got new things every
year. Each person's getting to that point a bit quicker,
Yeah, so there's loads of things I would change, and I'll probably write a blog post about that at some point at the end of the challenge, going through kind of coaching lessons I've learnt along the way.
Yeah, it's definitely been quite a dynamic challenge, hasn't it? And I think
from the coaching
side, yeah.
Okay, Kenchi Himura asks, what do you use to motivate Sam when he isn't doing as well as he thinks he should?
What does Ben do? Ben tells me I'm doing rubbish. He makes really rude comments. I'm trying to think of something he'd say. I don't know, like... No, you just come out with like these one-liners, which are like, alright, thanks. Way to motivate me.
Yeah, motivating people is probably not like a strength of mine. I think I'm quite like self-motivated. So I find that, you know, if someone's giving me feedback on something, they always say like, you know, like the praise burger. Tell them something they're doing good, something they're doing bad, something they're doing good. Yeah. Whereas I always think, you know...
Bad.
Well, no, just if it's me, I don't really care about the good, I just want the bad, and it doesn't really affect me in any way, whereas I think a lot of other people, like if you just tell them the bad stuff, it's more... So yeah, that's probably something that I should actually try and work on. Definitely, my wife would probably say that that's
one of your weaknesses.
Yeah, she definitely says lots of times, so I should try and be nicer to Sam. It's just because when you're coaching, you're so in the process that I think you're very much yourself when you're coaching someone. So it's difficult to, because I'm thinking, what will I want? And I would be very motivated and just want to know, what do I need to improve? What do I need to improve? What do I need to improve? Which is...
I don't really know what would be best for me.
No.
How do I motivate myself? So
you were very motivated as well, though.
I'm quite motivated.
Yeah.
So most mornings I'll watch like just some really good table tennis. So my favourite video is I think it's a Russian one. Maybe.
Oh, it's like highlights from the Russian league.
Yeah, highlights from the Russian league. And so I've watched that about 10 times or something now. Because you know when you get up in the morning, you're like, oh, I've got to get up and play some table tennis. And you're quite stiff. You're like, oh, Ben's going to go and he's going to do some horrible drill like overspeed where I'm like can barely move and getting balls whacked at me. And then I'll watch that and I'll get psyched up and I'm like, yeah, I can play like that. So I'm moving around and it just, I feel like, yeah, I can do that. It just gets me a bit going and I'll see a shot and I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to try and do that. So like where it drops really low and you get like a spin on it or something. And I think that gets me most psyched up.
Yeah, all the YouTube videos with the inspirational music.
Yeah, I normally put it on mute.
Kenshi also asks, how many sessions per week do you think is optimal for raising a player's level to the expert standard?
Probably about double what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends how good you want to get. Like, if you look at all the top players will train twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. So I think some maybe do 3, but the majority do a kind of long morning session and a long afternoon session with a break in between. Obviously, for most people, that's just not practical.
It's not practical if you've got a job as well.
No, I think if you can treat your table tennis training like you would if you were serious about the gym and go for an hour before work or an hour after work, that's probably a much better way to do it. Say you do 5 or 6 times a week, 1 hour sessions.
Yeah.
You're getting 6 hours a week, but you're doing it every day for an hour. I think that, and you've decided what you're going to do before you turn up, that is definitely much more effective than going somewhere and playing for 4 hours in a row, because you definitely lose focus during like the long sessions, or having 2 evenings a week you go and play for 3 hours at a time. One of them's a league match where you only play 3 matches and the rest of the time you're sitting around and umpiring. Like, I think you're much better off training as often as possible in a week and doing short sessions.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. The thing is, so we're doing slightly under an hour a day of like table tennis at the table stuff.
But it should be more than an hour, shouldn't it?
Well, it should be more behind. We're behind, slightly under an hour. But on top of that, I should really probably be doing hopefully another like hour or so of service practice a day. Then I should be doing more stuff in the gym. And in the gym, there's loads of stuff I want to do. I want to be doing a lot of shadow play to get my footwork good. I want to also be doing weights to get, particularly stuff like deadlift, to get my legs a bit stronger. I want to be doing cardio to just get my general fitness level up. So all that sort of extra stuff is what I think we're sort of falling behind a bit on. Which, if this was your full-time job, you could just focus on doing that. But fact I've then got to come back and spend 8 hours on my computer working is not very good for motivation.
And that kind of links on to our final question, which is from Bruce Bernstein, and he asks, how much do you work on serving, and what are your goals for serving to help Sam get to the next level? How much are you working on serving? Because you kind of do this on your own most of the time, don't you?
Yeah, so normally I do 15 minutes either before or after each session, normally before. But occasionally that doesn't happen for some reason. Like today I kept hitting snooze on my alarm, and so I missed my YouTube video and I missed my service practice, and I had a load of work to do, so I couldn't do it afterwards. And so I'm doing a night shift of work tonight, so I've got 8 hours tonight, and then we've got another session this afternoon, and so I'm not really going to have any time to do any service practice today.
Yeah.
But generally I'm doing 15 minutes. And what am I doing? I normally before starting my 15 minutes, I have an idea of what I want to do. So I'll say, okay, I really want to work on, I always choose 2 things. So I'll say, I really want to work on my backspin pendulum serve. And what I'll do is I'm going to do, say, 2 short to the right, 2 short to the middle, 2 short to the left, and then just repeat that and do like a box of balls with that. And then I'll choose another one as well. So I might say I want to do my topspin pendulum, and I'll say I want to do again short, 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 or long, long, long. And generally I'll just work on 2 of those, and I'll just try and get, and then I'll basically be grading myself on whether are they short, are they bouncing twice, and I'll give myself a tick or a cross, are they going right, all this sort of stuff. And then occasionally Ben will watch me do it and say, you're doing it totally wrong, here's how you should do it, and then I'll have a massive jump in my service ability.
See, it's tough
just by
because
picking up a little thing.
So service practice, you kind of do it on your own, but you need to get to a level where you're doing the serves well, and then you can spend loads of time practicing on your own. And maybe we did a bit too much of you just doing service on your own before you'd fully learn kind of like how to really grip the ball and catch the ball.
Yeah.
And then, so now that you've kind of got it a bit better, you should get more from your...
Yeah. And my serves have definitely come along. Like, to begin with, for the first sort of month of doing it, I actually hated it. I couldn't get any spin on the ball. It was just embarrassing.
I used to come in and Sam would say, "Oh, I've finally got finally got some spin on my serves." He'd be like, "Oh."
But these feel pretty good. And look at Ben's face. And
yeah, heavy float.
Yeah, but they're getting better. And now, like, if I play against someone who, even if they've been playing on their own for a year or so, just with their mates, but hasn't actually had any proper training, I'll be able to win or get very close to winning just based on doing some serves. So I've got a nice tomahawk topspin one which everybody puts off over there.
Yeah.
Long and to the side, and then I've got quite a heavy backspin one which everyone puts in the net. I've got a few sort of stuff like that which I know that they're kind of cheap points I can get against people who aren't great.
Right, well, I think that would be it for this video. That's been, I think, about 40 minutes. And there are loads of other questions that were kind of a bit more general, just kind of general table tennis questions. I think what I'll do is I will do a video on my own and just answer those. So if you asked a question that was not specifically about the challenge, but just more about kind of technique or how to play against a certain type of player, I will do another video on that to be uploaded next week. And yeah, everyone that asked a question about the challenge has had it answered, so hopefully you're all happy, and I hope you've enjoyed the video.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for watching, and expertinayear.com is the place to catch up with everything that we're getting up to. Cheers, thanks a lot.